I was recently asked by a toddler to go down the slide with them, and it was one of those circular, enclosed, claustrophobic, endless types of slides. But we went down, and when we got to the bottom, the little one said, "That was sticky." And indeed, it was quite sticky. And today I'm going to be speaking about communication styles that tend to be sticky or cause what's called crazy making, which is a tactic of communication that one party who may or may not even be aware that they have this toxic communication style, but it causes the other person to feel like they're going crazy because they're not being heard, they're not being validated, they leave feeling frustrated, irritated, exhausted, and the core issue never gets addressed because of these blockages of these communication styles. And these can be present in a relationship, in a co-parenting situation, in a family dynamic, in a work setting, in numerous dynamics. So being able to recognize the type of communication blockages you might be dealing with can help you mentally prepare and be more aware of what's happening and why it's so upsetting when you try to talk to a certain person about certain subjects. And B, you can look up that term and gain skills on how to better communicate with somebody that has that communication style or blockage. And it's similar, crazy making, to reactive abuse in that an abuser knows what buttons to push. They know what to say to poke and prod and trigger a victim to get a victim to react, to respond. And then they turn around and say, look how you're responding. You're so aggressive, you're volatile, you're creating issues, you're always causing fights. Picking the fight themselves, instigating it. And crazy making communication can be quite similar. It can be, instigative and is definitely very frustrating for the person that's trying to bring forward their feelings, their needs, a problem to be resolved. So knowledge is power, and understanding these tactics in communication can be helpful in numerous settings in our lives. And the first is the avoider. And this is the type of communicator that anytime there's conflict, they will avoid it. They'll leave the room, they'll get in their car and leave, they'll pretend they're asleep, they'll not answer their phone and say, yeah, I was just so busy with work. And days will go by and they'll avoid the issue and it never gets resolved. They just put it off. The pseudo-accommodator is the type of communicator that also doesn't want to deal with any kind of conflict and will very quickly agree and say things like, sure, whatever you want, we'll do whatever you want, or whatever you say goes. They don't want to deal with any kind of uncomfortable conversation. They just will agree to get it off the table. The guilt maker is the type of communicator that will make the other person feel bad for bringing their feelings to the surface or expressing their needs and say things like, gosh, we were having such a good time. Why'd you have to ruin it by talking about that or bringing your feelings up, and make the other party feel like they've done something wrong by trying to share their needs or express something that's bothering them, and so on. The subject changer is really good at changing topics if it gets uncomfortable. If the conversation, involves discussing something that's uncomfortable to them, they'll say things like, oh, I've got to remember to get milk on my way home, and change the subject. Or they'll distract from the core issue and say things like, yeah, I'm just really stressed at work, or I'm not sleeping well. That's what the problem is, instead of getting to the root of the issue. The distractor is the type of communicator that won't make eye contact and give undivided attention to the other person, but will have their back turned and be doing other tasks and say things like, yeah, I'm listening, keep going. Or they'll be watching TV, staring at the screen while this person's trying to talk, or staring at their device. So they're never really giving full attention to what that other person is trying to say or communicate to them. The mind reader is the type of listener that's not listening to hear or understand. They're listening to analyze. So they'll say things like, what you really mean is, what's really bothering you is A, B, and C, and not hear what the person's actually communicating or even validate what they're trying to say. The trapper is the type of communicator that will say things like, let's just be honest with each other. You can tell me anything, express anything. I promise not to get mad. And it's setting a trap, because as soon as this person communicates what they're feeling, it was, a set trap, and they'll get mad and it'll escalate and they'll use those words against that person. And it just becomes a bigger issue than it was before. The crisis tickler is the type of communicator that will just scratch the surface of what's bothering them. They'll stay right underneath the surface, but won't directly say what's on their mind. So say, for example, they're upset about their partner's spending. They won't say, hey, I would like to do this with our finances. They'll say things like, gee, I wonder how much that cost, and make digs and comments to let it be known they're upset about a certain topic, but they won't come out and say what it is they're upset about. The gunny sacker is the type where they won't say what bothers them ever in a conflict. They'll keep a bag of large and small issues and things that bother them and accumulate them. And then when this person comes and brings a certain subject up, all of a sudden they'll throw out everything that they've accumulated, every issue, everything that's ever bothered them. 20 years ago you said this, and that one time you did this, and dump everything onto the table. So now this issue that this person's trying to bring to the surface is no longer even relevant, because now there's 200 things that this person's been holding in that they're now pouring out, and now it's a huge form of contention and chaos in that dialogue. The trivial tyrannizer is the type of communicator that will let you know that they're upset but won't tell you why. They won't say, hey, this is bothering me. They'll do things like turn the TV up really loud if they know you're trying to work, or leave the gas tank on empty in the car if they know that that bothers you. They'll do things to let you know I'm mad, and be passive aggressive, which these are all passive aggressive communication techniques, but they won't say this is why I'm upset. The belt liner is the type that will go below the belt. So say you bring an issue to them, they'll attack your appearance or your family members or things that you care about, and will distract from the issue by going below the belt, which is quite damaging to that relationship, obviously. The joker will make light of anything that's being brought to them, turn it into a joke, or say things like, oh, you're so cute when you're mad, and minimize whatever the issue is and make it, a laughing matter. The blamer is the type of communicator that's also not looking to resolve whatever the issue is, but is immediately on the defense anytime you try to talk to them about anything, and will put the other person on the defense, because their response to whatever issue you bring to the table is, well, you did this, and this is what's wrong with you, and you're at fault for this. And so the core issue never really gets addressed, because it becomes a, well, you did this and you did this, and it becomes an escalated defensive blame game. The withholder will let it be known that they're upset, not by saying, I'm upset about this. They'll withhold affection or intimacy. They'll stop speaking to you or give you the silent treatment. They'll withhold things that are normal in that dynamic or that relationship to let it be known, I'm upset, but I'm not going to tell you I'm upset or why. And then the last, which I think is the worst, is the Benedict Arnold, and this is very common in abusive dynamics, where one partner will go tell third parties what they're upset about and vent and share things going on in the relationship with outsiders that really shouldn't be discussed, and they won't share it with their partner, so their partner won't even know about certain issues and certainly doesn't have opportunity to resolve them. Meanwhile, all these outsiders know more about what's going on in the relationship than the partner, which is a huge violation of trust and certainly doesn't leave to resolve. So I think there is definitely power in knowledge and understanding these communication styles. And often if you're dealing with an abusive family dynamic or abusive partner, you'll recognize several of these and can relate to the frustrations and the invalidation and how exhausting it can be to try to share your feelings and your needs and communicate and resolve issues, because you're often met with one of these styles. And in the same sense, you might identify that, oh, that is how I communicate. Maybe I need to work on that. And so I think it's important to bring awareness to these things.